gentlemen, this is Jeff Rains coming to you again with Foundation of Civilization. It has been another interesting week. We've had quite a few things that have been going on, a lot of things that I am concerned about. I hope that you guys are watching and you're not getting distracted by the silly notions that are happening, or that you're not getting agitated and irritated by people who are trying to take advantage of you. So what in particular am I looking at that I am much more concerned about? There are, well, quite a bit. Let me share with you what I've seen happening this week, unfolding this week. Now, recently, the new U.S. administration has closed down the Office of Net Assessment, and marks the end of an era at the Pentagon. The Office of Net Assessment evaluated events, technology, sociology, politics, and any number of other specialities to give an educated guess as to where the world was going in the near future. The problem with closing it down is that most Americans are so poorly informed they don't understand the implications of what is happening in all of those areas. As a example, what happened to the music industry whenever we went to digital formats? A lot of places no longer exist. Record stores, tape stores. What happened whenever the newspaper went online? We used to have hundreds of newspapers across the nation. We no longer have that. We also have, with the industry, the massive industrialization that we've seen across the West and across the world for the longest time. Human beings have become very, very self-centric. We're much more concerned about our gratification than we are about our responsibilities. Friedrich Nietzsche lamented in his time, in a series of lectures titled On the Future of Our Educational Institutions. He noted that students, after spending the day reading the great works of history, literature, would immediately reach for the daily newspaper. They surrendered their minds to mass opinion and immediacy, allowing headlines to shape their understanding of the world rather than the enduring lessons of history. The daily newspaper has effectively replaced education. He warned, describing how it coated every intellectual discipline with a sticky layer of journalism. Now, mind you, this was 150 years ago or so. He was concerned about what the newspapers were doing. Now we have gotten to a point where it's no longer newspapers, it's whatever media. Somebody posts a video online and people's minds can be changed very quickly. We have to be very, very careful about how we allow the modern media to influence us. This is one of the problems I am trying to overcome. I want to evaluate what is happening in the moment and see what impact it has in the future. While many people make wild claims, myself included, what information or data can they or we point to as a support for those claims? As a society, we need to look beyond the moment and see what is behind the hysterical headlines that are designed to garner your attention so propagandists can sell advertising or motivate you to support a certain political position or candidates. So, what is impacting our world today? Well, first, let me look at the markets. How are the markets doing? Most of us have seen the chaos this week, over the past few weeks. Where are the Western military assets? What are they planning? What significant events have occurred in this week or around the world? Let me give you the rundown that I like to do every week. Today is April 19th, 2025. In the world, the West Texas Intermediate crude ended the week at $64.68 a barrel. Brent North Sea crude ended at $67.96. and the OPEC baskets ended at $68.06. Gold not only held above 3,100 or 3,200, it held above 3,300 this week, ending the week at $3,315.13. Silver also maintained its high at a high level at $32.40. Again, I want to reiterate that the price of gold and silver remaining high indicate that people and institutions are afraid of the market instability. They're trying to maintain the strength that they find in gold and silver. The Baltic Exchange Dry Goods Index pulled back a little bit this week to $1,261. Now, normally I wait a little bit to cover things in the area, but I think this is rather important because things are unfolding. I did a follow-up to my warning of wars and rumors of wars. This past week on actually a couple days ago, April 17th, U.S. aircraft struck Ras Isa oil port in Yemen along the Red Sea. According to Houthi reports, 74 people were killed and 171 wounded. Now, this is the first time that the U.S. has struck the oil port and marks an escalation in combat. According to U.S. CENTCOM, I'll repeat, today U.S. forces took action to eliminate the source of fuel for the Iran-backed Houthi terrorists and deprive them of illegal revenue that has funded Houthi efforts to terrorize the entire region for 10 years. Now, I also want to make another note here. Chinese commercial satellite companies are coming under fire for providing satellite imagery to U.S. and other Western enemies, such as the Houthis in Yemen. This brings up the point that many commercial ventures cross over from commercial uses into the military realm, especially now that we have commercial satellites up there gathering commercial intelligence. While many companies across the world have products that can be used in both commercial and military sectors, they must be careful how and who they allow to purchase their products. Politicians also have to keep an eye on how these companies operate to ensure the constituents are protected. The dominance of the U.S. dollar is seeing cracks, and this ventures in and gives us a warning as to what's happening with the markets, the world markets. Now, some will claim that this is due to the current administration, but the demise of the dollar has long been predicted, especially with 120% debt to GDP ratio. This is nothing new that the dollar is going to take a dive. I've been hearing this, well, for 30 years now, because of those reasons, because people haven't been protecting the U.S. markets or the dollar itself. They've just been printing money. What we're seeing recently is close to a 9% decline since the beginning of the year of the dollar versus other currencies. Now, there is one benefit to this decline that makes the U.S. goods more affordable around the world. A far more serious threat to the U.S. dollar is China's new payment system, CIPS. It's also called the digital Yuan. Russia, China, Brazil, South Africa, India, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, and Ethiopia are all planning to be part of this system, and I believe the number of countries that are planning to join it are up to 110. Since 2010. China has been quietly building a digital empire conducting transactions without the U.S. dollar. Costs are cut by 98%, and waiting times are reduced to minutes instead of 5 days, as with the SWIFT system. Many countries are altering their payment systems to join CIPS. According to Statista, the total transaction value in global digital payment market is was projected to reach $9 trillion in 2023. Of this, the Chinese digital payment market was expected to account for the world's highest accumulated transaction value at 3.6 billion, over 3.6 billion dollars. China's payment system is dominated by mobile apps like Alipay, WeChat Pay, and these apps facilitate transactions through QR codes, making payment seamless and ubiquitous across various settings. Food carts, major retailers, and China is also exploring its own central bank digital currency known as the digital Yuan. The fight that is occurring right now across the world is not just trade wars, it's banking wars. When the next liquidity crisis occurs, will the world look to China and accept their financial terms, or will they look to New York or London? This is the war that we need to be watching. Who is going to have the money and credit to fight the next war? Now, where are our military assets? Over the past few weeks, I've been noting that IRSR aircraft continue to focus on northern Mexico, flying along the southern U.S. border, conducting surveillance into Mexico, and they're also watching the U.S. mountains, the western mountains in the United States. The 6 B-2 stealth bombers are still deployed at Diego Garcia, as far as we know, with their support aircraft, and they likely were involved in the attack on the port at Ras Isa. 295 ships in the U.S. Navy, 99 are deployed, 78 are underway. USS America is still in Sasebo, Japan. USS George Washington is Yokosuka, Japan. Carl Vinson is operating in the Gulf of Oman to support the operations against the Houthis, probably part of that attack that occurred a couple days ago. The Abraham Lincoln returned to San Diego Friday and held a Friends and Family Day cruise on Saturday a week ago. The USS Harry S. Truman is operating in the Red Sea, and the USS Nimitz is in transit for regularly scheduled deployment to the Western Pacific. Oh, let me back up to the Carl Vinson really quickly, because it is in the Gulf of Oman. The Gulf of Oman is actually not large enough for the entire carrier strike group to deploy as designed. The support ships are supposed to spread out, but the Gulf of Oman is too small. The USS Ronald Reagan, last report, is away from Bremerton, Washington, its home port. The Nimitz is in transit for a regularly scheduled deployment to the Western Pacific. The Harry S. Truman is operating in the Red Sea. Not sure if I covered that or not, but there you have it. The USS Tripoli is in port at San Diego. USS Wasp departed Norfolk at last report. No word on where it is currently. The USS Iwo Jima returned to Norfolk on Monday, this past Monday. USS Gerald R. Ford departed Norfolk March 14th for pre-deployment exercises. The George H.W. Bush last report was in Norfolk. And the United States and Iran have made cursory gestures of talks, but those still don't seem to have gone very far. In fact, last report they weren't even in the same room. Over in Europe, the markets, DAX ended at 21,205.86. The FTSE ended at 8,275.66. The CAC 40 ended at 7285.86. The IBEX at 12,918. Russia, for some time, Russia has been developing infrastructure in Belarus to deploy tactical nuclear weapons. This is concerning, especially for Western countries like Poland and Germany and France. Russian missiles, despite the peace talks or attempts at peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, Russia continues to conduct operations and hit the Ukrainian city of Sumy, killing more than 30 people. Coalition of Baltic nations enforcing shipping regulations against Russia's shadow fleet and limiting Russia's ability to sell oil are holding a tanker. Estonia, in this case, they seized a Russian tanker, or a tanker that was moving Russian oil, and have noted that there are 40 deficiencies on the tanker that have to be resolved before they allow it to leave. According to U.S. Secretary of State, the U.S. appears to be getting a little frustrated with talks between Ukraine and Russia, especially with Russia, and they plan to move on if they show no progress within a few days. Polish president has reiterated, as I've noted previously, that they want French nukes. They're looking to get those French nukes. And it appears that they are willing to host French forces so they can station nuclear weapons on Polish territory to be able to get them. France itself is struggling as former African colonies kick them out of the country. Algeria, in particular, has expelled a number of French embassy staff. In Asia, the Nikkei was at 34,730.28. The SSE index was at 3,276.73. The Hang Seng ended at 21,395.14. The BSE Sensex was at 78,553.20. And the Nifty 50 ended the week at 23,851.65. In a concern for the Taiwanese, 62 Taiwanese military members were found to have Chinese residency permits. Very concerning for the Taiwanese who want to defend the island that many of their military members are allowed to remain in China. Taiwan's ruling party expelled former assistant to the foreign minister over alleged Chinese espionage ties. In the Middle East, talks between Iran and U.S., as I mentioned, remain indirect. Iran has reiterated that they will only address nuclear issues and sanctions. The U.S. is planning on withdrawing 600 troops from Syria, which is interesting. I remember people complaining about us sending troops to Iraq and to the Middle East to fight Iraq and defend Kuwait. I don't remember anyone ever discussing sending troops to Syria. Now, we don't have a lot of troops in Syria. We had 1,600, approximately 1,600, and apparently this will take us down to about 1,000. I'm still at a loss as to when the public had a discussion as to what we should be doing in Syria. In fact, I still don't know that anybody realizes we had people there, or very many people realize we had people there. Africa saw quite a bit of action this past week. Sudan's rapid support forces seized control of the Zamzam refugee camp in northern Darfur. After 4 days of fighting, fighting ended. An estimated 300 to 400 people were killed in the camp, which is home to 700,000 people. Was home to 700,000 people. UN reports that 400,000 people have fled the camp. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, there was a mineral deal that was struck with the Democratic Republic of Congo, and this deal was negotiated between the U.S. and Congo before the M23 rebels conducted their advance into the area into the eastern area of Congo. In remaining in Congo, this past week, a boat overturned, capsized, and caught fire, or caught fire and capsized, either way you look at it. A number of people were hurt. In fact, so far the count is up to 148 people that were killed, that they know have been killed, with still more than 100 people missing. There were about 500 people that were on board the boat. An interesting move. Ghana is prohibiting foreigners from trading in gold in its country. Again, this is one of those. Ghana is not a huge country, but they're protecting their own gold, and I find it interesting that they see this as an important move, and the rest of the world, well, a lot of places in the rest of the world are looking to bolster their currency. This is one way that Ghana can do it. In the Americas, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the week at 39,142.23. S&P ended at 5,282.70. The NASDAQ ended the week at 16,286.45. This past week, a 17-year-old in Wisconsin was arrested for allegedly killing his parents as part of a plot to assassinate the U.S. president. He was looking to get money to assassinate him. And I always love these headlines. Alleged arsonist. Well, he started a fire, best we can tell. The question is who it was, but a fire was started at the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, and by a Free Palestine supporter. Fortunately, the governor and his family remained safe. In Tallahassee, Florida State University saw a number of students running in panic as a shooter killed 2 people and injured a total of 6. The U.S. president directed the military to control federal land along the southern border. Now, this is more than just sending troops down to the southern border and watch it. He actually set up certain parameters, a 60-foot wide area, and anybody that they catch in that area are not going to go to civilian courts, they're going to go to military courts. At least that's his plan as of right now. Now, he also signed an order this past week banning the risky gain-of-function research. This was one of the ways that COVID-19 was developed. That research used to be conducted at University of North Carolina. People saw that it was very dangerous, and that we couldn't be doing it. And we're teaching viruses how to jump from human to human, or from animals to human, or vice versa. However you want to look at it, it's it's very risky and it's very dangerous. And as we saw with COVID-19, millions of people could die, even with a virus that was not that harmful, unless you were older. Anyway, President banned the research, and hopefully we will be able to root out the problem with the bureaucrats who were willing to conduct this research in the near future. As the housing market goes, the average U.S. rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage climbed to 6.83%, which is the highest level since late February. And this is a problem that we're going to continue we have to continue to watch. The Federal Reserve increases interest rates so that they can tamp down inflation. But if they tamp it down too much, then there's not enough liquidity in the market, and the people can't conduct business. This directly impacts housing purchases and sales and ownership, but there's much more to it. And after years of questioning COVID-19, where it came from, and if it came out of the Wuhan lab in China, as opposed to the wet market down the road, the Finally, the government, the U.S. government, has noted and that it did come from the Wuhan lab, not the wet market, not as the media broadcast loudly for years. And this the coverage of COVID-19, this points out a greater problem that I have been trying to discuss. And one of the main reasons that I'm doing this report, despite not getting paid for it, at least not yet, I'm I'm doing this as the producer, researcher, writer, talent, if you want to call it that, and the editor. Our current media is not just failing us, it is betraying us. When they told me that COVID-19 came from a wet market, I paused and asked, what data do they have to show that this came from a wet market? Nothing was ever presented, just some expert opinions that this was the case. Then I watched as anyone who was questioning the narrative were challenged, threatened, deplatformed, and banished from the media cycles. No dissenting views were allowed. Not only is this un-American, but it is inhuman. Human beings are inquisitive by nature and seek information. The way the media handled this stifled any kind of investigation. It led people to only a few conclusions and directed them to a predetermined outcome. If we are to remain a functioning republic, we must become better informed and understand we cannot rely on the legacy media for any important decisions. In fact, my personal mantra is, if the media is saying it, it's a lie. Maybe it's not a direct lie, but they're trying to mislead us in some way. Unfortunately, the legacy media are entrenched in power structures that enslave us. Please wake up and realize what is happening to everyone. Much love to all of you guys. I really do enjoy doing this, and I have no problem, and hopefully one day I can afford to do this. I can make some money while doing this, but not just yet, apparently. Please like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, I'd love to do this for a living, but that is up to everybody and everything else. Where am I supposed to take this? I hope that you guys have found it informative as to what is happening, and you're watching the markets and the conflict as it erupts. I am trying to make sure that you guys are not surprised when markets go crazy or whenever conflict arises. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys again in the very near future. Fortunately, my schedule has changed recently, so I should be able to do a few more of these throughout the week. Thanks again, and I will see you guys next time.